gale manchette, yo gale femme. Si yo gale YouTube, moi m'a parlé femme. Deux moun moi personne bon c'est maman ma papa. Si nous vle problème ou met bini wap tande blam blam, wap tande blam blam tande. Yo pas tande, yo pas tande, yo pas tande. Même si yo petit bi yo ça pas regarder. Yo pas gade, yo pas gade, yo pas gade. Yo manchette baissé, pas comme ça passe. Yo pas tande, yo pas tande, yo pas tande. Même si yo petit bi yo ça pas regarder. Yo pas gade, yo pas gade, yo pas gade. Yo manchette baissé, pas comme ça passe. Moun Pétionville, moun Léogan, moun Kafou, moun Chapman, moun Jérémy, moun Gonaïve, moun Tigwaf. Si gen musique nous met danser, mais si gen moun Kapou mi faut nous aider. Bagay yon ki pi bon que l'autre, m'gon bagay pou di nou encore tande. Frère man, yo pran banner, y'a dansé dans carnaval. Yo gale manchette, yo gale dam. Si yo gale yo sou mwen m'a gale pam. Deux moun mwen fè sol, bon c'est maman ma papam. Si nou vle problème ou men bini wap tande blam blam, wap tande blam blam. Yo pas tande, yo pas tande, yo pas tande. Même si yo perdi vi yo sa pa regate. Yo pas gade, yo pas gade, yo pas gade. Yo manchette baissé, pas comme ça passe. Yo pas tande, yo pas tande, yo pas tande. Même si yo perdi vi yo sa pa regate. Yo pas gade, yo pas gade, yo pas gade. Yo manchette baissé, pas comme ça passe. On marche vous, on chambouqué. On parle beau, pas besoin gourmet. On danse beau, danse sous les Haïti. On jamais tout notre yo ka pensé, pour pays à ka guéri. On marche beau, nous pas chambouqué. On parle beau, pas besoin gourmet. On danse beau, danse sous les Haïti. On jamais tout notre yo ka pensé, pour pays à ka guéri.
All right. Good dawning. Welcome everyone to community or dawning devotion or whatever I come up with for the day. But welcome everyone to the segment. Yeah. You know, I have to start off often with music now to kind of get my mind right, you know, to what we're doing. Sorry about that. I got a little disruption. Anyway, so yeah. That was a good brother of mine. That was a song that we did. Man, all these are old songs, man. So everything is at least 15 years old. And I have no clue as to anything he was talking about in the song. I had a sister who I knew some years ago, a Haitian sister, and she broke down the lyrics to me one day. But you know, it just speaks to the universal nature of music. It's just a universal language, you know. And one day I was in the studio and, you know, he was just sharing some insight about Haiti with me and about, you know, going back to visit and some of the things that he enjoys about being in Haiti and this and that. And just from the vibe and the energy of the conversation, I made that track, and then, you know, we started going crazy. And then his brother came through, and him and his brother were dancing around my studio, literally with machetes in their hand, writing that song, dancing around with machetes in their hand in my studio while I was making that track. And that's what we came up with, you know, unfinished track, of course, but, you know, I haven't heard it in a long time, but I always enjoy it when I listen to it because it brings me back to that moment of just looking at these two wild Haitian brothers dancing around my studio with machetes and just getting all riled up. I just love the energy of it, even though I didn't even know what he was saying as he was singing it, but I knew it was good. Because I know you can't get that excited with something that's not good. So, you know, I might even play that again. That riles me up. But anyway, Welcome everyone. We missed yesterday's. Well, I missed yesterday's segment. I had to fulfill a commitment to someone yesterday that I promised, and yeah, it took me a bit longer than I anticipated, and I was trying to figure out if I could broadcast uh, with my cell phone, and it was just a whole long thing, man. So I just said, you know what, I think it's okay to you know, allow Wednesday's show to still saturate in for the people, and then we'll just come back Friday. But welcome everyone, welcome everyone in the space, you know, um, and of course those of you who are going to come in later from the archives, welcome all of you. But this strong or this week for some of you, but we tend to say strong over here. We were really building on and vibing on concepts of power and maternal principles and leadership and headship and just some of the basic components and necessities that are necessary within a feminine domain in order to provide and sustain some sanity within the growth and within the power of one's feminine nature. And I think we've been having some good discussions on it. I think so, and hitting some good points. It seems. I've been getting some very strong feedback from you all, and you know, I want to just reiterate something. I've said it before, but I'm gonna say it again. You know, don't always get down on yourself so hard uh, about the fact that you didn't know these things previously. You see, don't it's a process. Learning is a process, and you don't want to discount any of your steps that you went through to learn. And I'm going to tell you why. And maybe some of you can relate, for different reasons, but definitely you've witnessed it. I'm sure there are plenty of times when you've heard people on the call-ins call in, have an issue. I give them a clear-cut answer, and they rebel and debate and rebut against the truth. Okay? Those are the same people that will hear that same answer from me or maybe from someone else 3, 5, 10, 15, 20 years from now and may say the same thing. Oh, I wish I would have heard this before. You did hear it before. You were just not ready to receive it then. Okay? So your learning and your growth is a process. You got to understand that. Even though you're hearing things now and you're saying, man, this would have changed my life, this would have done this would have done that. Sometimes you come into things when your spirit is ready to receive them. Not just, when it sounds good to your ears. Oh, this is some good information. And it's a little bit deeper than that, folks. So let me just say that because I get a lot of messages, around that. Man, where were you 20 years ago? Where were you when I was getting married? Where were you when I was having children? This, that. Somebody like me was there. Trust me. There was a Haru there. It could have been, your mother. It could have been your aunt. It could have been your auntie. It could have been your coworker. Could have been your best friend. There was a Haru. There was somebody who was bringing light, and they may not have said what they said the way I said it. Just like the person who ignores me now, they may receive it later, and somebody may say it differently. you know, but you receive what you're ready to receive when you're ready to receive it. Okay, so that's really what it's about. It's more so about readiness. More than Chief, you should have been around then, or Chief, you should have. That's what I'm always hearing, all the time. And just know I've been teaching a very long time. Well, I don't want to say very long because you know what? There's some elders that I know that have been doing this longer than I've been alive. So I guess very long is relative in that sense. Yeah, long. Yeah, let me just say that very long is relative. Um, in comparison to my lifespan, my own personal lifespan, I guess I'd say I've been teaching very long. So, and some of the things that I've been sharing, some of the information has been accessible to you, so that's why I always try to tell you, when you come into this space and you're learning and you're growing now, congratulate yourself that you are now ready, because you weren't ready before, but you're here now and you're doing it. So that signifies some growth on your part. You have to sit back sometimes and look at that and say, whoa, okay, I am maybe a different person now, because look, you may have told me this 15, 20, 30 years ago. I wouldn't have tried to hear it. I was having a conversation with someone just yesterday, in fact, and I was sharing some information about just some of the choices we make in life, and how it, sometimes can, our choices can lead us on certain paths. And essentially, what I was sharing was this: I was speaking about the power of thought, and I said, it's important to uh, remember that your thoughts are remembered. So you want to remember them. I know that sounded a little bit confusing, but it's almost like documenting your thoughts is an important thing, because once you start to understand that each thought that you project, or each thought that you conjure up, has its own mental visage associated with it, you start to understand that essentially those different mental images, or mental visualizations, that you form, they create worlds, or they create things that are being worked out, or calculated, or straightened out, or untwisted and unknotted on the mental plane. And the mental plane is just as valid as this physical plane, and those are the things that create uh, the basis and the continuum for your next life. So the thoughts that you have right now are the thoughts that, or are the life that, that determine the life that you'll have in what we call the afterlife. Your thoughts. I know often we look at it as your deeds. If I'm a good person, if I give to charity, if I open doors for people, if I smile when I don't feel like smiling, things like that, then I'm building up good karma through my actions, for the next world. And there is a truism to that. But of course, those actions, thoughts, and deeds only become complete when they are a part of a complete cycle, of soul urging, spirit movement, thought, then action. So all components have to be within them. It's very similar to sometimes where you hear me say that there are people who will give unapologetic apologies. It's not a real apology. One of those, well, if I offended you in some way, even though you just finished explaining the way the person hurt your feelings, or how the person may have violated you, and they say, well, if there's anything that I may have done, I just apologize. I just told you what you may have done. You could actually apologize for those things specifically. So that's an example of an unapologetic apology. You ain't sorry. But you know, in any sense, speaking about, just like I said, the thoughts sometimes we have, as I was sharing with the person yesterday, those thoughts create, what your next life is based around. Because they create situations on your mental plane, just like your actions in this life right here create things for the next life. So actions on this plane create things for the next life, or create the basis of what that life will be around. Thoughts on the mental plane create what the basis for what the next life will be around. So it's important to remember your thoughts. It's important to be a conscientious thinker, not just to have wayward and reckless thoughts because it's easy to do, but to really monitor and observe thought, because each thought that you present or you have is creating forms in your life. And your mental plane, I covered this in the 4 planes of existence. The mental plane is just as valid as your walking 3-dimensional plane. So anyway, I was sharing that, and after I was done sharing it, the individual whom I love dearly was sitting there quiet. And I was like, what's wrong with you? And they were like, Baba, you're just so intense. Oh my goodness. So Um, Sometimes we're ready to receive things, and just sometimes we're not. That's all. So like I said, a lot of times people want to rewind the clock and say, "Oh, Chief, if I could take this information and go back, or if I had you in my life back then and back there, and this, that, and that," and I usually don't respond when people say that, but I mean, I respond inwardly, and I say, "Yeah, you wouldn't have been able to listen to the information back then. That's why you hearing it now." So and of course I'm not discounting the tragedy of the Ma'afa and how we've been separated from our communal norms and our communal guides and the things that establish our strength and the endless chain of principles that we share and all the detailed workings of our history that provide us a rich future and lives that are effectual and really mean something and purposeful. I'm not discounting that, but a lot of folks just are not ready to hear certain things. That's all. It's just that simple. Again, like I said, you've seen it even in these segments. People have called in. The answer is very simple. Simple to me. They ask questions, give the answer, and they say, "Okay, wait, maybe you didn't understand the question," because it's not what they wanted to hear. So they're not ready to hear it. And then you'll see me kind of get quiet. All right, okay. All right, well, you got this. I'll start cracking jokes. I'm done now. Because I know there's nothing that I'm going to say that's going to crack through your hard headed skull right now. I know that. So what I'm going to do is either utilize this for a teaching moment for the rest of the people listening, or I'm just going to have fun with it. So I'll build my energy back up that I just expended. I don't care if it was, you know, 2 or 1 unit worth of energy. I'm going to get my energy back by now joking and build myself back up through humor before I get off this phone with you. You see? So, I just say that to you all, who have been listening, that, and who have made that statement, because there's been a lot of you. Trust me, you have had gurus along the way. You have had Buddhas along the way. And some of the gurus and Buddhas that you have had along the way, you've created through your own thought form. It's just like when we come together, at physically, new physical bodies can be formed. Well, it's the same thing mentally. When we come together mentally, and even if you're conjoining with yourself, there's a new form of a Buddha formed. You know, so there's a new form of thought and pure idea that's just formed on the mental planes. And it's good to just realize that sometimes with all those wayward thoughts, we have a lot of things to work out um, before we're ready to kind of clear our palate. Sometimes we dirty up our palate, because every action, you know, um, that we take has a history that leads up to that action. And the history, it a lot of times it has a whole story within the mental plane. Sometimes we think, I just have a thought, I'm thirsty, and then there's an action associated with it. Sometimes we just think it's that. Sometimes we don't realize that even that thought of being thirsty, when it came into the conscious mind, there may be a 2 or 3 day history of a story that existed before that happened. Very similar to your next life. You don't just pop up and birth into your next life. You may go into your next life at 40 years old, 50 years old, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100 years old. So there was a whole past and a history that occurred before that life came into being. Well, your actions are the same exact way, because your actions represent another life. Things exist within the mental plane, within thought form, right? And then they transition into a different plane of existence. Well, the same way how we're existing on a three-dimensional form, and then when we're here, we're done here, we'll manifest into another plane of existence. So there's a history that creates the basis of what the next plane of existence will be for us. There's a mental history that creates a basis for what our physical actions would be. and our physical actions create the basis for what our karmic responsibilities will be. You see, there's always something leading up to something, you know. So even in our studies or even in our learnings, when we're trying to figure things out, and like I said, when people were saying to me like, "Oh, where were you before?" and "Man, I could have used this information and this and that and that," you know, you may have been at a time in your life where um, you were working out some of the karma for the mental images and thoughts that you already created in your life, you know, or maybe you were in a place where you were selfishly, you know, coveting the concepts that you already had in your mind. You were so attached to those things that it was very hard for you to actively, you know, carry out the cleansing of your mind because you still had so many things that you were holding on to, maybe even secretly that you were cherishing, uh, that just filled up your space. There wasn't any room for anything else. You see, wasn't room for anything else at that time. So, like I said, you know, don't get down on yourself. It's a process, and now don't use that as an opportunity to say, "Yeah, I wish I wasn't so hard headed back then." And you know, don't get locked into those cycles of thinking like that. You really don't want to do that. Like I said, when you come into higher awareness, and I always make the distinction. If you notice, I'll always say higher awareness because you're already aware. You're aware. Everybody's aware. They're aware of something. And higher awareness is relative. So as soon as we say I came into consciousness or I came into higher awareness or elevated awareness, that higher awareness or elevated awareness is only relative to where you were before. It's only relative to your personal history. You see, it doesn't mean that higher awareness or elevated awareness that we now make the assumption that we're all in the same place. We may be in different places again relative to where we were before. Just like if you have a friend who's on a journey of gaining higher awareness along with you, they may make certain changes in their life. They may say, okay, I'm going to keep eating meat, but I'm going to take the skin off the chicken. And you may say, well, I'm going to only eat free range chicken. I'm not going to eat any chicken that has growth hormones in it and things like that. So you both have elevated, your posturing, both of you. Now, one may, the person taking the skin off their chicken, has elevated to a certain space. And the person who decides to only eat free range chicken has elevated to a certain space. But, ideally, just because a person may say, well, free range chicken doesn't have the growth hormones and things like that in it, it doesn't necessarily mean that they elevated to a higher place. Because the person taking the skin off the chicken, I know these are almost even crude examples, but the person taking the skin off the chicken, that may have been a larger and deeper commitment. It may have required more shifting of their thought vibration and more realization, just of their divine assurance in order for them to do that. You see, so it's all relative. It's all relative, and elevation um, is different in the minds of a thousand people. Elevation is different. So you want to celebrate each thing. That's why I celebrate the things that you all do. When someone says, I just finished this book, or I just started a yoga class, or I went to drum class, or this and that. Sometimes if you look at the history of a people, you see that it's such a huge step. I think I shared some time ago. There was, well, a long time ago. I'm sure none of you remember, but there was a sister I knew years ago who, she came into her higher place, or striving and struggling for her higher place, when she was 13, and began to lock her hair, I think at 14, something like that. Of course, no one else in her family was interested in anything of the sort. And they made fun of her for a very long time, and she became a raw vegan, and all these different things, way before, a time when it was even that popular to be such. And she was speaking about her family one day, and I made a note to her. I said, yeah, they may still be worshiping certain things and maintaining certain mentalities, but I said, look at your mother. She had two sisters. I said, look at your mother and look at your two older sisters. I said, there's something that you should notice that has happened, and I know it's a result of you know your growth. And she said, what? I said, all of them have their hair locked, and all three of them, from her mother, very very old mother, uh, to her sisters, they all had locked hair. And I said that right there was a huge shift in their consciousness. Now, sure, they may do certain things and this and that and that and that, but that was large for them. And that may have even been a larger leap for them at their age to, even on a subconscious level, to follow the baby of the family, to follow you. That may have been a larger leap for them. That's why I always say, don't preach to your family. I know we always think that preaching will elevate the minds of the people, and we look for our platform and things like that. But the greatest thing that we can do is be a model for our family, and make sure that our personal lives, or our personal and public lives, embody the teachings and the elevations of the things that we say we're about, so that way people begin to draw inspiration from us. They begin to draw inspiration from our lives, and when they start to see the authenticity of our thought visions or our thought vibrations, and what I mean by the authenticity of our thought vibrations, the trueness, or the genuineness of us going from thought to physical vibration, or thought to the energy that we're going out. So we may share a thought, and it may be pure, and it may be strong, but when people start to see that the energy around us is imbued with the very thoughts that we speak on, we begin to purify the world just by that idea. And what happens is those vibrations begin to seep into the minds of the people around us, because we're going from thought to vibration. You see, sometimes we're looking for um, the vibration, but our vibration, clashes, because we have such a clash and such a mix of thoughts. We're thinking about elevation, yet and still we have so many thought bodies to still work out and untangle on the mental plane, and we haven't done that. We haven't done that. That's why, again, you'll get people who may call into a segment like this, and they may say things that are absolutely crazy, and they're saying to themselves, "Well, I've been walking in this way for 20 years, or for 15 years, 10 years, 5 years, whatever people think is a long time." You know, and he just told me this, or he told me I got the definition for faith wrong, or this, or what spirit is, or this, that, and they can't imagine it. They can't accept it, because there's again, they haven't worked out and untangled the mental bodies within the mental plane. So there's a clashing of thought. So what kind of vibration do they send out? A confused, clash, disordered vibration. You see. So it's just important to give reasonable thought to things like that, and to see the power of thought transference. And there's a healing, of course, that can occur in your ambitions, or in your ability to transfer your thoughts. And like I said, the preaching and the teaching is cool. I'm not discounting that, because we have all different ways that people come into knowledge, and people learn to, I guess we could say, become aware of and utilize their natural faculties, or some might even say supernatural. But I don't really get into that too much, because that's again a relative term, you know. But so I would just say being themselves, or their natural faculties, or uh, what could or should be their normal faculties, which some people may call super or paranormal. But there's so many different ways to deliver a message. But I tell you, the most powerful is your example. You see, and through your example, like I said, living when you're coming straight from thought meditation or thought vibration, what you begin to do at that time is you send a vibration out that sends a telepathic message out to those who are ready in the world, those who are aspiring. I mean, how do you really think it is that you got here? I mean, that's why I always say congratulate yourself. How did you find this little show out of the billions of YouTube channels, which with greater, more fantastic and dramatic production, who make sure they have a new guest on every strong or maybe even every day for some people, and they have all of the just the large, tasty, syrupy, and sweet components that people would like to hear, and they're assuring you in a certain way, and just rocking you to sleep and bringing you right in and making you feel comfortable. But you found this little small space here because there was a thought vibration that was sent out, and it was sent out to everyone who deserved it. Yeah, I know we don't like to use that word too much, but it's a real thing. To all those who were aspiring and who deserved it. And that was the thought vibration that was telepathically able to seep into the minds of those people or those individuals, you see. And that became more profound than anything else because there was a purity of the thought vibration, and you were able to accept and receive that pure elixir that other people couldn't. They hadn't built themselves up, or they hadn't built themselves down or broken themselves down enough to actually receive it, you see. So, there's an influence that you can have on others uh, without any audible language that you should always pay attention to. And through our concentration and through the direction of our will, we begin to send out telepathic signals, you know, to people. We begin to send out telepathic signals to the world. It's like a beacon, in a sense. This vibration is here. This vibration is here. This vibration is here. And some are ready to receive it. Some are not ready to receive it. But if the beacon is something that you really value, and you can really say, wow, I'm getting a lot out of this, and this is amazing, and this is that, and this is that, and this and that, and that, and that, and that, and that. You have to look at you, and you're able to keep up for a while. I'm not talking about the people who pass through and get their little care package and, you know, keep it moving because the light was too bright. But for those of you who are really riding with it, you have to realize at some point it's because you were a deserving aspirant. You were one who were aspiring, and you were deserving of what it is that's being said. So you should take it seriously, because not everyone can be here. You see, not everyone can take that in and to take that information in. It's really important to just show that measure. And I'm not trying to give you a swelled head. That's the last thing I'm trying to do, because yeah, I think we got that issue enough. Our egos sometimes are really out of control. But when you start to recognize and value thought culture, and you develop success in your life, or you develop a certain strengthening of your nature and a certain quality of thought, you start to really get into the deeper aspects of thought culture, and that comprehensive understanding of the working of the thought vibration, motif, how one thing goes to another, and you start to learn how to transmit thoughts around you, or vibrations and energies around you that are beneficial to others, at a distance, and that maybe could be an inspiration to some, and for others may be an irritant. Like I often say, your enemy should not be comfortable in your presence. If your enemies are comfortable in your presence, you're doing something wrong. You're doing something wrong if your enemies are comfortable around you. I always tell people, man, at least in your personal space, only certain people should be comfortable in your home. That's just me. Now you take it how you want, but when a person walks into your home, they should clearly be able to see your investment. I'm not saying you got to have skulls and goat heads and stuff like that at the door just to try to make a point, but there should be certain things in your home that become protection, even on a psychological level. It could be something as simple as a piece of mud cloth. Some people get nervous about that. A piece of mud cloth somewhere, or it might be a mask, or it might be a quote, or it might be an image, or it might be the smells, it might be the sounds of your environment that strengthen the quality of what it is that you're doing. And then certain people who are not on that vibration, just like there are certain people who are going to tune into this show, they're going to hear my voice and say, nah, I'm good. Nope. I'll say one word. He's too punchy. His voice is, his voice doesn't feel good to me. Because maybe, again, the vibe that they're on, or maybe what they want, what they expect, when they tune into teaching, especially YouTube teaching or whatever. But whatever it is, so there may be people who will lose their interest and shift their attention and their will and their faith based on the fruit of your life not being, tasteful, or I should say digestible and palatable for them. You see? So, and again, I'm not saying this for you to now go out of your way to make people uncomfortable and to go overboard with it, but to start seeing the very literal value and the vibrations that you put out around you, the literal value of the thoughts that you put out around you, and then you'll start to understand. I guess I have to give Strong Mind, Strong Body Fitness a shout out in this, but it's the strength of your body and your mind, and the achievement, and even the pleasures, that the things that you take pleasure in, that will give you certain company in life. I hear people talk so often about not having, which is actually what we were also talking about yesterday, not having people around them who are on similar vibration, and to some degree feeling lonely and feeling isolated. I tell you, because there's a weak point. There's a weakened point there. There's a clashing. Some people have strong minds and weak bodies. So then essentially there's a clash there. And again, strong or weak is relative. Strong for you may be being able to do a squat, because maybe you had knee issues in the past, and you couldn't just squat and pick up things. You had to darn near lay down on the ground to pick something up and then roll around and pull yourself up on a chair or something. But so that may be strong for you, and weak may be, maybe I can't put a 30-pound book bag on my back and walk with it, or maybe I can't walk very far. I may have ankle issues, or my feet are not strong, or whatever it is. So of course we're speaking about relative statements in that sense, but when you start to really invest in the powers of your mind and your vibration, you'll find that not only will your interest and your attention and your actions change, but you'll begin to draw the interest, attention, the will, even the faith. People have faith in you, of those who are on that vibration. So a lot of times people are very distant, or people are very isolated, or feel fragmented, because they haven't realized the hidden powers of their vibration yet. They haven't gotten that far, you see. And that's why sometimes you can, like I said, you'll tune into someone, or you listen to someone, and they may be saying all the right things, but they're transmitting something. Their core essence, or their core being, does not coincide with what it is that they're saying. So the truth that they may be sharing is not clear and definite in the atmosphere around them. Sometimes you want to look at the air around the person. That's why I take great value in meeting people. And I'm not a very I fake it. I do well with it. I can fake being sociable, but that's not something I necessarily put great emphasis on. I'm not. I don't want to walk amongst the people and touch shoulders, and I'm a pretty much an introverted person. So I spend a lot of time quietly alone. But um, I still do value moments when I can get around people, speak, drink water together. You don't, even if you don't get to share a meal, just drink a bottle of water together and talk or look at one another's youth and or one another's families and just build, even if it's for 10 minutes, and get to see and share the atmosphere that exists around each other. You see, look up over the person and look at the color of the cloud that's overhead. Things like that, because it starts to give you a clue if the person has realized their powers or not. If they've attained their freedom, if they've liberated themselves through their thoughts, or if they still have thoughts that are binding them. You can tell this through the very energy that's around them. It's just like looking at the planets. Um, you can see almost the planets around the person. We all have our own orbit, and the people around you, represent again the bodies that you have sent out on that mental plane. We speak about Ojiji in our Yoruba culture, and many people will tell you, I guess if you look it up, they'll tell you it's your evil shadow, the Ojiji. That's incorrect. It's just as incorrect as Shu being the devil. It's just as off as that idea. But no, your OGG is your electromagnetic form that exists around you. Closer, I guess in thought for many of you people would be like the aura, but it's a bit different than the aura because it exists within your shadow as well. But closest to many people would be the aura in that sense. But you want to look at the OGG or the aura around a person, of course, and it gives you an idea of the illusionary power of a person. Because you remember, like I said, your thoughts create bodies in situations on the mental plane, and then that extends out to the physical plane. But whatever extends out and exists within or objectifies itself on the physical plane is a part of that Maya or a part of that illusion, you see. But there's a value to the illusion as well. It's just like if you see someone who puts themselves together a certain way in their clothes, they dress a certain way or whatever, you may give them certain accolades as a result. You don't say, well, it doesn't matter how you dress because this is all an illusion anyway. You still recognize the atmosphere that they're seeking to create around them just by their adornments, just how they beautify things, how they tap into that Oshun energy. And sometimes the atmosphere that they create, not sometimes, all the time, depending on the vibratory purity of that atmosphere, it can raise and inspire all of the people who are sensitive to it and who are sensible to it. So when people say, man, Chief, where were you 20 years ago? I'm going back to that again. Somebody like me was here. You just weren't sensible to that person. And you weren't sensitive to their atmosphere. You see? Maybe, they had a suit and tie on. And you had in your mind, anybody with a suit and tie, is a part of an establishment that you're against. So you may not have been sensitive to the idea that, well, maybe all they knew was suit and tie. So they were presenting the best of what they had. So there's a purity to that, you see. Or maybe they spoke a certain way, and as soon as you heard their accent, it shifted you. Or like I was told yesterday, oh my God, Baba, you're so intense. Maybe their intensity threw you off. and you weren't sensitive or sensible to that particular vibration. We're not going to pick up everything. It's like there's certain colors babies can't see. They mature in a way where they can now see certain colors and they can see certain vibrations. Well, you know, it's no different with us. It's no different with us. We get to that point where we're able to receive and we're able to see, but for some of us, we may spend a very long time, um, as one might say, I guess you could say, in the dark. We spend a very long time in the dark. Okay, so it's critical and it's important to sometimes sit back for a minute and just think about what thoughts and vibrations you may be sending out and which ones may be useful to the people around you and which ones may need to be a part of your accomplished work, your defining work. And what I mean by that, sometimes our accomplishments or how we define ourselves is through overcoming our struggles and um, tapping into our destructive power, our destructive energy, and learning to clear things that block us from having a clear understanding. So we have to begin to destroy things, and we have to begin to break things down, even within ourselves. You see, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with destruction. Just like there's nothing wrong with construction. In fact, whenever you construct something, you're gonna destruct something. But like I said, when you begin to look at the literal value of the thoughts that you actually have and the process of transferring those thoughts and infusing yourself with the courage of your thought. See, that's the key. You begin to send out a telepathic beacon of courage, of value, valor and of strengthening, and even if it's from a short distance, because usually when you first start or you're first learning, um, you start to send things out at very short distances. You're learning to extend and strengthen your aura. Oh goodness! Hold on a second. I'm sorry, I forgot to mute. Oh yeah, back to that. I'm just muting my phone. But yeah, sometimes you're sending out at a very short distance, and as we start to get a little deeper and we learn different tools and different practices, we learn to send out in a different way. But we begin to come to the realization that essentially thought or our thoughts are life. So the running or the moving of our thought currents will constitute our world. You see, I know I'm talking about thought a lot, but it's because it's important in the sense of how can I put this? A lot of times, you guys are asking me when I start talking about leadership and headship and how people get together and how families are formed and things like that. And I'm hearing so often and so vigorously, people are saying that they have trouble meeting people or finding people on the same vibration, or the town that they live in has no good mates mate choices. And I'll begin to start tapping into them and telling them how maybe you might want to look at doing things this way, or doing things that way, and changing up your vibration in this way, changing up your vibrations in that way. And they kind of maybe get a little quiet. What does that have to do with you know me not being able to find people? Because they may not understand, and I'll explain it. But like I said, you receive what you're ready to receive, because certain things you're not sensitive to, certain things you're not sensible to. So I may speak on something, and again, if you don't recognize the vibration, then you may buck up against it. He don't know what he's talking about. He don't know what he's talking about. Or he doesn't understand what I'm talking about. He doesn't understand what I'm going through. Nobody understands me. You see. So the thoughts that you're having constitute the world around you, right? That's a simple one. A lot of us know that. So, but it's like when we look at the sacred Odu Okoran Meiji or Akanran Meiji, calling forth the heart, but we also see the value there, because the Ibeje live within that sacred Odu. And, we always talk about the Ibeje or the twins or the Marasa or the Gemini, and often we speak about them. Even Chokma and Bina can also go into that that mix, that mix of twins. Chokma, Bina, the Ibeje, the Marasa, Gemini, what's the face? Luke and Leia, Eruline and Leto. But anyway, so we look at that often and we say, okay, like I've taught before, that the twin energies or the 11, that master builder number, or the twin towers, even, they represent gateways, and going through a certain gateway and finding equanimity, or finding things that are equal on each side. We have pillars on each side, so they represent the things that hold things up. Just like, Gemini. Gem means marriage, the root word gem. So, we start to understand, okay, well, the gateway of marriage and what constitutes a marriage, well, usually, conception of sorts, or consummation of sorts even. But, what constitutes that, that begins a gateway, because marriage itself is a rite of passage. So we start to see marriage itself, or, the union, as a pillar, very similar to towers or the number 11. So it becomes a pillar of a civilization. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It is such. But there's also another value to that twin energy, or that, again, that Marasa or that Gemini energy, and it really deals with how we create around us. It's not just a gateway. Yeah, it is that. It's, that twin energy is a gateway, but how we create around us often deals with how we attach to what's already within us. Because the twins represent, that's why a lot of times, well, I'm not going to give you the geomantic breakdowns, but the twins often in certain systems represent sadness. That's why sometimes if you see certain movies and it's like a scary movie or something, you'll see like maybe two twins, two little girls or two little boys or something, and they say something scary and they disappear into the fog. Because it represents that twin vibration, represents looking at oneself in the mirror, in a sense. And when you look at yourself in the mirror, you then look at the things that you're attached to, the concepts that you're attached to, that you're holding on to without letting go. So even in Okoran Meiji, that sacred Odu, and I won't get into the Odu too much because there's way more to it than that. And sometimes I don't like to, well, for one, I don't really share Odu information too much on the air. I give you little hints here and there, but people sometimes have this really wayward thought that each Odu, well, this Odu means that Odu means this, and it's so much larger than that. It's so much bigger than that. So sometimes I don't like to do that, because the people's minds are not ready to hear sometimes that, okay, well, this Odu brings forth this energy, or this, that energy. They'll get stuck there and not realizing that you're talking about dynamic and fluid movements. It's like me saying, oranges are bitter. Well, they're also sweet, or if they're not ripe, they also can be a bit bland. They also can sting your eye when you bite into them and the juice pops up. They also can be colored yellow, green, orange. There's so much to it depending on the fluidity and the flexibility of that particular energy. So it's the same thing with the Odu. They're not static as people would like. People would really like it to be cookie cutter, because it's hard for them to imagine that there's so much information to have to memorize, but the truth is, when you start to step into the dynamic realm where those energies exist. It's not you're memorizing a lot, but you're being taught a lot in every moment. It's like having an elder, in a classroom somewhere, and people come and ask you about maybe a book that elder wrote, and you just fly to a certain page, but you know what page to go to, but you alone maybe has access to open up that room. You tell the person, okay, wait here for a second, wait outside. And you go inside and you speak to the elder and you say, hey, this person is asking this question and this part of your book came up. How does that relate to what they're saying? And then they give you the information and you learn in the moment. Oh, okay. Thank you, Baba. Or thank you, Iya. And then you go back outside and you say, okay, this is what this sacred passage means. You see? So it's very dynamic in that sense. And that's why I don't want to give too much of that information when I speak, because even though you've heard me say it's fluid, even though you've heard me say it's dynamic, even though you've heard me say that these are organic energies, sometimes people hear what they want to hear. Yeah, I hear all that, Chief, but what does this Odu mean? Or you get that all the time. People will put Odus in the chat room. I got a reading and this Odu came up. Can you give me some information on that? No, it doesn't work that way. You have to get out of that Western thought of just the linear quantification of things, where this is that is that. Just like when you look at stories on a continent, we assume that a story always starts from the beginning. That's not always the case on the continent. Sometimes the story will start in the middle, then it will go to the end, and then it will say, and that's why, and then it'll go to the beginning. Or to go to the middle, then the beginning, and then it'll say, and if you start that way, and then you move in that direction, this will always be the result. So now we jump into the end. Because it's very circular. So we jump in wherever we jump in. And it's evolving. It's evolving. That's why you go and you hear a story and it changes and it changes and it changes, because it's going to fit into a contextual environment that the people need in that sense. So I know that was a lot that I just diverged on, but the old dudes are worth it for that level of divergence. So yeah, that idea of that twin, or that Okuran, which is really bringing things down into a single point of awareness, into a single focal point. It requires us to also acknowledge what it is that we have seen and within ourselves. See, that's the twin aspect. When we speak about the twin flame, sometimes people have that a little confused, but it gives you that opportunity, or the Gemini, what we're married to. What are the ideas that we're married to? What are the concepts that we're married to? And we can start to look at the things that weaken our nervous system, the things that cause our organs not to function properly, to things that begin to create diseased tissues inside of our body. Because sometimes we start to look at the diseased thoughts that we are attached to, the diseased concepts that we don't want to let go. And then we start to realize, with my attachment to all of this sickness on the mental plane, there's no way I could expect harmony and health on the physical plane. And the things that I'm creating on the mental plane, the bodies that I'm creating on the mental plane, are outlining and establishing my life on the next plane. So now I go into my next world diseased, you see, because I forgot that maybe my body is a product of my mind. And my body is still under the control of my mind. You see, I forgot all of that because I created the separation. So when we look at the sacred Odu Okuran Meiji, it gives us an opportunity to look at some of the great things that we're attached to and some of the not so great things that we're attached to. And in fact, that particular Odu, one of the things that we say often is staring into the darkness. Okay, that's a phrase that's said sometimes when that comes up, or you're giving, you may be given a responsibility. I don't want to say responsibility, a task. And that Odu may come up, the elder may say, "Oh, okay, you have to stare into darkness." Sounds very cryptic. Like, what do you mean? Stare into the darkness. But essentially what's being said is you have to look within yourself. The problem exists inwardly. Okanran. Okan is what? One. But in Yoruba it also means Okan is one. So Okan, knowledge, wisdom, and understanding of one. But Okan also means heart. What does Ran mean? To call. Call forth the knowledge, wisdom, and understanding of the heart. Well, what truly exists inside of your heart? Because if you look at your heart or your heart chakra, that is the attachment point between your higher self and your lower self. There's your twins. As above, so below. And Okaran, the single point of attachment. If you look at the Odu, nah, I don't want to give too much of that. Now I was getting ready to get into a deep Odu breakdown. Well, not a deep one, but an Odu breakdown. Yeah, I'm a back up. back up. I'm gonna back up from that. Remove ya. So the thing is, so if you just dealing with that Odu, you're dealing with coming to that point of attachment in your life and looking at the things that are keeping you connected to maybe thoughts of peace or thoughts of contentment, or even thoughts of divinity and perfection. And you're learning to cultivate maybe more divine thoughts, based on what you want, and starting to get into that place of sound mind, sound body, or I'm gonna get a sister a plug, strong mind, strong body, fitness. And you find that people who have very little control, over the thought, or people have very little control over their speech. I mean, because if you have very little control over your thoughts, you're going to have very little control over your speech. Loose thoughts, make for a loose tongue in that sense. But it only takes a small amount of control to bring things back into balance. It's not like you have to become Professor X and become a juggernaut of thought. And, I'm going to suppress every unhealthy thought that ever enters into my mind. And you're going to crush your thoughts. Now, you don't even need that much. I trust it's just a little bit of energy. A little, when you're doing quality things, it's almost like colognes and perfumes and spices and strawberries, good strawberries without all the insecticides. If any of you've ever grown your own strawberries, you only need a little bit when you're juicing, when you're making a shake. A little bit goes a long way. Well, it's the same way with good spices and good colognes. You don't need to, or good essential oils. You don't need that much. Just a few drops will do. A few drops of lemon oil will clean your whole counter, disinfect it, and it will keep the mice away because they don't like the smell, the citrus smell of some good essential lemon oil. So it's the same way with your thoughts. A little bit of thought control can go a long way, because a little bit of thought control can give you some really good speech control. A little bit of speech control can begin to create a better countenance, a better visage. I'm talking about your face. Okay. Yeah, I know you guys know what it means, but it's for the children listening. You learn to control your thoughts a little bit, control your words a little bit. You look better. Your voice becomes better. Things that were once clouded and murky become brilliant. They become lustrous, lusty. You see, just with a little bit of control, a little bit of, things become a bit more serene around you. When you start to get that, well, every thought I'm having produces an emotion, and those emotions produce a word, and those words produce vibrations, and every cell in my body becomes imbued and leaves a lasting impression with that vibration. So it becomes critically important that, I learn to consistently and persistently raise my thought power and raise the opposite thought of the ones that are destructive, so that there's balance, and start to create harmony through that very simple dualistic balance. If I'm, have a lot of down thoughts, infuse and imbue my life with a lot of up thoughts. Simple balance. I'm a harmony. We 2 note harmony. Then we don't need 3 note, 7 note chords. We can just use 2 notes to create that harmony, an up and down, or a positive and a negative, or a construction and a deconstruction, but do it in a way where it's conscious, so that we begin to neutralize certain vibrations that are around us. And again, that courage begins to serve as an antidote, the courage to control our own thought, the courage to control our own speech. That becomes the courage to control things that may try to enter into our atmosphere. And it starts to determine what your atmosphere is. That's why some people come around you and they have such a sense of calm and serenity, around them. And when you're going through things, you just like to have them there. When they're around, they make you feel safer. They make you feel like things are going to be okay. And, as long as they're nearby, and they may not have any more wherewithal than you do. And you may meet people like that from all walks of life, man. It's not always people who have it all together. That's why I say your growth path and your change and your destiny is relative to where you came from. You see, it is relative. And you start to see that through the investment of more intelligent inner argument, you begin to create an inertia of harmony, an inertia of serenity. You see, but when you have that fatal or that spirit of fatalism around you, where it's like you don't have the courage to control your thought, or the courage to control your speech, and you just have this idea that everything is predestined, so therefore I need not really invest, in my own thought design or control, or even begin with the observation of thought. It is what it is. It's going to be what it's going to be. Then you create an inertia of misery around you. You see, that's when people have a misunderstanding of what karma actually is, and they don't realize that Arumila is within you. So you're here. Part of the things that you're here to be is the master of your own destiny. You don't just allow what you think is predetermined or predestined in your life to become the fullness of your destiny. It becomes a fallacious argument within yourself. Your destiny, as I mentioned, I did the show on destiny before, is created by, your karmic actions, which is created by your own thoughts. Thought determines destiny. You see, just like your thought determines your atmosphere, and the atmosphere around you, of course, it extends. So it determines your immediate atmosphere, but your atmosphere can also be considered as the people who are around you. You have a bunch of low life people around you. Sometimes we pride ourselves in that, because we want to be, we just want to be better than everyone around us. So when we start to strive towards higher awareness and we're around people who are not striving for that, we'll brag about that. All my friends are low lives. This, then that. We get into to thinking like that without realizing that our thoughts are transforming and creating the atmosphere around us, and we're making our own destiny through our own thoughts and through our own word power, through our own emotional power. So we're attaining positions in life based on that. You see, so we can attain the position of the king or queen of hell, or we can attain the position of the king or queen of heaven, because we're mastering our own destiny. So sometimes when we look at people around us and we say, well, my family is not doing this, I'm not, people around me are not doing this, that. We go through it. We're forsaking our own free will, or sometimes, again, we feel better because people are doing worse. We don't understand that what we're transmitting around us becomes a beacon. So if you're surrounded by low lives, it's because you are a beacon of low life, purity. You are upholding, what constitutes the low life existence because of the beacon that you're sending out, or the lighthouse that you're, the radio signal that you're sending out. Um, it's an omni wave, and omni, just means all around in the circular sense. When you're talking about frequencies and waves, you have different patterns, and omni is one of them, and it just means it sends out in a circle in all directions. Okay. So sometimes even, we hold poisonous thoughts, that create a or fix within us a very hot temper, you see, because we have long-standing jealousies with people. Every time we see them and see accomplishments they may have, and we get upset, and we have anxiety about certain things, and it creates a corrosion inside of us. Anxiety creates corrosion. I know what I'm talking about on this. Or we talk about the intensity of our passion. I'm a passionate person. Passion. Most of the time, you end up saying you're passionate is because you're trying to justify some behavior you just did that you shouldn't have done. Oh, you know me, I'm passionate. Well, passion burns to the bone. That's not necessarily the feeling you want. It creates imbalance. I know we're told we should want that because, again, you live in a society. They give you romance novels that they sell at the airport, and then they tell you about the passion of the Christ, and all that, those things, and you hear those words and think that those are ideas that you used to have around you, and you don't realize that they become corrosive to the very cells in your body because they're creating diseased thoughts. Your jealousy is creating a diseased thought. Your anxiety is creating a diseased thought. So of course now you have liver issues, kidney issues, stomach issues, heart issues, spleen issues, issues with your lower spine. That's where your infections begin to creep in your lower spine, usually through your skin. Now you're having all kind of infections, and had no idea it was because of the corrosive anxiety, or because of just, a long-standing jealousy, or unhealthy bitterness, because bitterness is not always unhealthy, but an unhealthy bitterness that you were holding on to in your life, and it creates those problems. And then you come to a point where you have to note that, man, every part of my being, every cell in my body begins to suffer, or it grows, depending on if I'm sending out a beacon of life impulse, or I'm sending out a beacon of death impulse, or I'm sending out a beacon of health impulse, or I'm sending out a beacon of harm impulse, you know. And because I'm also determining what enters into my mind and what I'll grow in the soil of my own mind, you know. So what happens is your thoughts become weaponized against you in a sense like that, because of how you're changing the vibration of the matter around you, and how you're creating an environment with what you're thinking, and what you're lighting up the world with, or darkening the world with, because like I said, you're just like your brilliance, your brilliant genius, right? It becomes a beacon of light, because what is genius? Hidden substance. The jinn. It's hidden. So when we say brilliant genius, we're speaking about something that comes out from the dark into the light, like the genie who comes out of the dark lamp into the light and tells us, you ain't never had a friend like me. But anyway, let me check through the chat room real quick. I usually try to do that at the top of the hour. I'm a little bit over, and just see what y'all yip yapping about. What's on your mind? All right. So let's see here. You know what? I'm gonna play my cut again. I know I played it at the top of the hour. Just vibing, thinking about my friend. I gotta give that brother a call, man. Real good brother. And the name of this cut is Moonway. Moonway. All right. Not that it matters because you ain't gonna find it anywhere. It only exists on my hard drive. Actually, well, I'll explain that when I get back. But anyway, all right. And I'm gonna just check the chat room for any questions. If you have any questions, feel free to post them now in the chat on YouTube, and I'll go through them and come back on them. All right. And yeah, let me check right now. All right, all right. I forgot that song is undone, so that there's no smooth fade out. I'm sorry, I had to rush back. Yeah, on rough cuts, it just stopped. All right, so I was just while that was playing, I was actually just going through the chat room and listening or looking at some of the questions and things like that. All right, so I actually wasn't finished. All right, so let me start with what I have here, and then I'll maybe try to scan as I'm going. All right, so let me bring I was copying and pasting some of the questions here. Shim sham flimmy flam. All right, so let me go up here. So Anthony Crawford asked, "Where can I get some of this music?" Well, pretty much every song that I play is just some old song I haven't finished. I've had on my, on my system for 10, 15, 20 years. So some of them are out. Some of them have been actually put out. I don't think anything that I've played too much. Some of the stuff is floating around YouTube. Um, just old cuts, man. I got a lot of music. I got a lot of music. I got music dating back, like I said, I think on one show I was playing music from a tape, I found an old tape of some songs and I was playing them on there. So yeah, where you gonna find them? Yeah, I don't know. uh, but, yeah, I don't know. They're all over. I guess that's the answer. But most of them are just in my, I guess, my little private collection. Because what I do is when I do songs, I do copyright them. But some, like I said, when I produce music, a lot of times I'm very sloppy. That's my style. I get it out real quick, and then I'll come back later and hook it up. But I just want to get the idea out. So I have a lot of those, and a lot of what you've been hearing is that, that I've done over the years and just never came back to. And but that actual song, they ended up taking that song, him and his brother. I told you that. Yeah, it was Wild Haitians, boy. It was a good brother of mine, though, man. I gotta give him a call. He's a real good brother. Um, yeah, and I can say brother. We developed a brotherhood over the years, and um, I was working on he was sharing some information. We were just talking about Haiti one day, and he was like, "Yo, I love going there and this certain time," and it was just sharing just some of the elements of Haiti and like the parts that he loved, and he was like, "Yeah, man, after the rain falls, man, it's so beautiful," and this and that, and I'm listening to you. I mean, I'm listening to him, and I'm getting a certain vibe. you know I'm getting a certain vibe from him, and it just kind of, maybe I made the track, because it's always a vibe thing. And he was like, "Yo, I like that, I like that." And his brother came through, and his brother had these machetes. And they started dead. They was like, "Yo, this is crazy." They dancing in the studio with these machetes all up in the air, and we wrote it and right there. That's why there's no chorus anything. It's just him. It's like sounds like a freestyle because we did it right there on the spot with the machete in hand, in front of the microphone and dancing around, and just never came back and finished it. So that, yeah, most of them are like that, man. But at some point, maybe I'll take some of these old ones that are decent and put them on maybe a mixtape or something like that. The old, which I did release a mixtape like that years ago. I get all these rough and rugged. I think I called the rough and rugged sessions. All these rough drafts. But maybe I'll do that again because like I said, it's fun for me sometimes to go back. All right, so that answers that. Nicole Mass had a dream. Okay, okay. Doctor, Doctor Mask. She says the realest dream. I seen everyone there. Chief told everyone to do their laundry. Everyone was cleaning up the community. Then I seen Chief passing out new Timberland boots to all the youth around. Dream was so real. hmm Preparations, preparations, preparations. Yeah. I mean, it's kind of dealing with what we were talking about today, right? Dream like that. Going through your thought environment or your mental plane and cleaning up some of the things that are inside of that thought environment, right? Some of the things that you're attached to, just like you would clean up your old laundry, but cleaning up some of the things that are in your old thought environment, and you know things that you're attached to that need to be cleaned up or need to be reconciled, and need to be looked at. Because even when you do your laundry, you're also looking at what maybe fits, what doesn't fit, what you need, what you don't need, things like that. And like you said, people were cleaning up the community, so uh, everyone putting that work in and bringing the youth in. Yeah, I'm not gonna do a whole dream breakdown because when I was scanning through, I saw that y'all were already discussing the dream, so I'm gonna stay out of it. Tareen says I was born physically on a 999 day. My Egun pot was born on a 999 day also. Been working with my pot for 9 months and now starting to actually work and command the elements. Congratulations, brother. Because you know what? You remember when you first started calling into this show, into these segments? That was one of your big questions. You had a pot, you had some stuff that you were working with that you didn't particularly know how to work with. Now look at that. You see? Look at that, man. That's huge. Like you said, you're actually now commanding the elements. That's a cause for celebration, my brother. That is a cause for celebration. It's huge. That's big. That's actually big, man. Achilles says, Chief, my girl is trying too. She commented on a toothpaste this morning. Now she's checking for fluoride. Ah, see, shifting consciousness, shifting consciousness. You know, I don't. I'm not gonna say just you take what you get, but you know, you appreciate those things when they come through. You appreciate and you celebrate even that. You know, buy that sister some flowers or something she likes. You know, because that's big. You know, and each one that you celebrate, you know, she'll do a little bit more. Yeah, man. She's checking for fluoride. It starts somewhere. And then next, you'll probably not call her your girl because I'm sure she's an adult. Hint, hint, hint. So, Byron Curry says, let me see. Had a strong dream. My house was completely renewed on the outside. New windows, doors, bricks, pointed, new roof. It looked great. Sun was shining too. It felt good in the dream. A new beginning is starting for my family. Strong light and male energy coming forth, supported by Ele Dumare. Good. Yeah. Renewed house is a renewed Ori Ode outer head. That's a new brain, new thoughts. Right back to what we were talking about. It goes right back to what we were talking about today. You see, everything always fits in where we at. Okay, so that was the only ones that I copied. There was more, but those are the ones I copied and pasted. So I'm gonna go up from the bottom and work my way down. Let's see where I left off at. Da, 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 da. All right. Let me try to jump in. You're welcome, Empress 2009. She says, thanks for that Odu clarification, Chief. I have spent a lot of time trying to understand what an Odu is, but there is very little Western explanation that is understandable. Take a mirror, Empress 2009, and shine it up into your yoni. All you gotta do is sit down on your bum, spread your legs, take a small mirror, and look up into your yoni. That is what an Odu is. All right, let's see. I'm serious. You think I'm joking, but I'm not. I'm serious. All right. I'm just looking for questions. Okay, Michelle, Chief, do we need to have a clean and nutritious brain, physical brain, excuse me, in order to have better thoughts? Does a weak and feeble mind create a perpetual hell for a person? You already know the answers. I know you like to get confirmation here, but you know the answer to that. Come on. You know, it's like we say in Yoruba, you know, let not my outer head spoil my inner head. So your outer head represents your brain, your thoughts. Your inner head represents your mind. So um, you already know the answer. So do we need to have a clean and nutritious physical brain or to have better thoughts? Of course. Yeah. But there's other things that go into a better thought because you remember thoughts are products of spirit. So if you have a wayward or sick or unaligned spirit, unaligned with what? Aligned with the reflection of the soul, then you're gonna have, you know, a diseased brain or diseased thoughts in that sense. And does a weak and feeble mind create a perpetual hell for a person? Yeah, absolutely. You know, because usually the feeble minded are the most uh, egocentrically stubborn in that sense. So you know that egocentric stubbornness, which is really a weakness, because there's fear. They're afraid. You know, when you're unable to control your thoughts, fear creeps in because then you become unable to control your emotions. You know, so you have this overarching and arching and enveloping fear that exists around you. So as a result, once your life is ruled by fear, I mean, it just, it rides you. It rides you like you're a horse being broken, in that sense, man. So yeah, weak and feeble mind uh, is an egotistical one, you know. But I would say this to you, Michelle. I think you're probably thinking weak and feeble brain. Yeah, weak and feeble brain. Because remember, the mind is the gateway, right? So a lot of times the brain doesn't even allow you to get as far as the gateway to even get things happening. Some people stop at at just the Oreo day or the outer head or just brain activity. So you already know the answer to that, though. I don't even have to get into that too much. Oh, and she said later, Modupe Chief, you answered the second part of my question already. I like to rephrase my first question. Okay. Can we still have higher thoughts slash reality shifting thoughts despite the physical condition? Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Look at Stephen Hawkins, right? Prime example of that. So yeah, yeah. And your physical condition. Oh, okay. There's more to the question. Can we still have higher thought reality shifting thoughts despite the physical condition of the physical brain? Yes, you still can. You have people who could have brain damage. It doesn't mean that they don't have higher thoughts or let me scroll down as I'm answering because y'all like to add parts to the question later on down. All right. Okay. It doesn't mean that you can't have higher elevation or higher consciousness um because you have a damaged brain, or maybe you don't have a brain that's as evolved or as developed as one would think it should be. Often it just comes to alignment and obedience. Obedience is really powerful, and I don't mean like obedience like obey me, but obedience to your nature. Is a really powerful thing, and even with low brain activity you can still be obedient to your nature, which brings out your higher manifesting qualities, you see. So yeah, that's why we can always study the animal kingdom, because for the most part, until we start to interfere and mutate them, they're obedient to their nature, which allows us perpetual study. So the same way somebody may have studied, a rabbit 500 years ago, we can still study a rabbit today because throughout the time it's been obedient to its nature. You see. So let's see. Empress said I had to work hard to get rid of thoughts of jealousy. It took years of maturity and mental reasoning, excuse me, once I decided to overcome it. Yeah. Jealousy is a tough one because when you grow up in a society where you're considered to be chattel or you're considered to be property, it becomes difficult not to take on that same mindset. You start to look at other people as property too, and that's where jealousy comes from, because you have a distorted sense of ownership. That's my man. That's my car. You can't have it. That's my house. That's my child. you know. But that's because we grow up in a system where, you got birth certificates stamped on you. So ownership exists at the very root of much of our misery, and it takes away our free will choice. So we begin to take on some of those same ideas as well. That's what happens. Again, remember the spirit of the leadership always becomes the spirit of the people. So if your leadership is imbued with thoughts of or initiatives of owning you, then you begin to uh, treat those around you the same way as if you own them. Royal Honey Jaha says, I had bad anxiety since my mother passed away. Since my mother passed, excuse me. Yeah, a lot of times those traumatic events like that will create that, man. It'd be something as simple as, somebody passed and maybe a relative came to your house and told you, and your relative drives a van. So when they came to the door, you heard the door slam of the van. Boom. And that's when you got the worst news of your life. And now anytime you hear a van or a large vehicle pull up outside of your house, the anxiety kicks in. It's a form of a stress disorder. In that sense, you have those triggers that create that corrosive anxiety in that sense. Let's see. Vivid Eye says, Chief, how do you know if nine position cast is out of natural harmony? Been reading that section and grasping the divine, and I'm curious. I'm not answering that. Mm-mm. That's a student question. Um, you should add it to the app, Justin. I guess you're talking about that song. All right, I'll throw it in there. I'll chuck it in there, even though it's not a part of that project. But yeah, yeah, I'll throw it in there because I don't think I'm gonna finish that project. If I do, it's gonna take me a long time. Maybe I don't know. We'll see. Okay, I see Brother Byron started answering in strong mind, strong body, fitness seconds. Yes, please add it to the app, Chief. Okay. Yeah. Um, Byron started answering the whole piece about the cast. Yeah. Then Vivid Eye says, "No, what does he mean when a cast is out of harmony? Just seeking clarity." Mm-mm. Nope. Somebody else should have the answer. See, a lot of you don't do nine position. That's the problem. You skipped over that part because it was too hard for you. I know. I'm watching. Y'all sneaky. Yeah, I finished your book, Chief. You know nine position casting. Oh, mommy. You start doing the Scooby Doo thing. Oh, you didn't do it, and that's a critical part to your learning is your divination and your casting and learning how those energies work. Because a lot of you tried to skip nine position and go straight to E5. You're trying to make your own, and that's why you ain't got it yet. That's why a lot of you I have not taught E5 who have asked me. No, I ain't teaching you E5. There's a path to this. Stop being sneaky. Anyway, all right, let's see. Justin says, if you do decide to buy some Tims for the youth, Chief, slide me a pair, 8.5. Yeah, that is a youth size. So that's why you want to sneak in with them little feet you got. But I don't think she said in the dream that I bought the Tims. She said I was handing them out. Okay, so I was probably taking pictures for the newspaper, handing them out, but I don't think I bought them Tims. I ain't buying that. All right, so let's see. Boom, boom, boom. I'm just looking for question marks, basically. Okay, so Carrier, and if I mispronounce that, please forgive me, or you can correct me. Carrier CEO says, "Greetings to Chief and everyone else in the chat room. I was wondering, correlation? Is there a correlation one's child? I guess with one's childbirth. Uh-oh. I was wondering, is there a correlation one's childbirth is really close to their parents? For instance, okay, so I guess it's when one's childbirth is really close to their parents. For instance, my son's birthday is 4 days apart from, and then it got cut off, and we don't say anything else. Right. So I'm not sure what the rest of your question is, but I guess you're just asking. Your birthday is 4 days apart from your own. Maybe you're saying, I guess. So you want to know if there's a correlation between one's childbirth if it's really close to the parents. Yeah, absolutely. You find that often, and a lot of times what that is because certain number vibrations are popular in your family. So I've seen that a lot. Especially between parents. For instance, me and my father have the same Earth Day as far as the day number. Um, one of my women, her mother, her mother, and her brother have the same exact Earth Day. Her mother, and her brother, and they're not twins. Her older brother. So um, and that particular day, the numerology, it fits them. Oh God, it fits them. But yeah. So a lot of times, it's that aspect of a certain number vibration is very strong. So you really want to look at the numerology as far as for the correlation there. When you're seeing the connection between the parent and child, because of course a lot of times the child takes on a strong deal or a strong amount of spirit from the actual parent. You see. So yeah, they may have similar numerological value. They may even have similar astrological chart value in that sense. But that's usually what that represents. It's you gotta play with the numbers. That's really what it is when you see that the births are so close to one another, like that. All right. Designs by the sign says 8.5. Justin, dang, you got me feeling like my feet are huge, but I'm 5'10". Wouldn't be right if I wore a 6. Nah, you 5'10" woman, you probably around that 11 or 12 foot area. Designs not defined. That's all right. It just means that you're a good swimmer. I know you can swim. them big flipper flappers you got down there for feet. You walking on boats. Anyway, I ain't gonna mess with you. Yeah, Justin got some little feet. I don't know what that's all about, man. You know. Yeah, but Justin's not a big guy anyway. You know, so if 8.5, actually 8.5, I guess that is actually kind of big for him considering. Yeah, Justin's not a big guy. He's a smaller, sneakier type of energy. Yeah, I've met Justin in person. Yeah, he was lurking around the workshop, you know, that I was having. But anyway, yeah, so um ooh, Jennifer, you wear size 12? Ooh, man, y'all some Bigfoot women, man. Goodness. Jennifer wears a 12? I bet you can climb trees real easy with them feet. Oh, let me stop. It's not Wednesday night. I know I shouldn't talk because I actually have real big feet myself. So don't feel bad. And all the sizes that y'all listed, 12, 8, and 9, I actually have bigger feet than all of y'all. So yeah, I'm past a 12 myself. So who am I to laugh at you? Yeah. But big feet and big hands actually. But you know, hey, that's how it is, man. It makes it easier for me to kick people and kick and punch. You know. But yeah, man. So that's pretty much energy there. I think I went through most of the questions here. That I see y'all have. Oh no, okay. Yeah, I covered that. Yeah, I think I covered everything. But Vivid Eye Publications, I don't know if you got your question answered. I think he probably left it because I know he usually leaves around this time to go to work. Yeah, gotta head to work. We'll catch the rest. Yeah, he's gone. So yeah, I know Brother Byron gave him some information. I didn't read all the answers, so I don't know if he got everything he needed. But a question like that, you know, how do you tell if some Brother Shaga called them kickball champs? Yeah. But a question like that, like how do you tell if something is in the natural order or out of the natural order? You know, that's something as students that you should be sharing with one another. Um, in that sense, you should be able to share that type of information. And again, don't look at those books as just I do consider Grasping Root of Divine Power a reference book. By the way, I probably should have when I do the newer edition, because I'm gonna tap that book up. There's some pieces in that book that need to be fixed. Like I said, the brother who put me up on the where I made the mistake in my Zulu, um uh the plural tense where I used a singular word where it should have been plural for the Zulu. So I'm gonna fix that. And there's some little points in there I'd like to expound on and give a little bit more information. A lot of times when I'm teaching and even when I'm writing, I make it a point to um, you know leave spaces. I do that on purpose. That's why, like, you notice with the node exercise and our new spiritual training. Yeah, I know. Yeah, that was on purpose. People say, "Wait a minute, but what's the node for this one?" I left some of them out for a reason. I want to see if you're gonna look it up, or if you're just gonna send me an email and say, "Oh, Chief, I don't have the information here." Let's see if you're gonna find out, because the information is there. I've already actually given you the information in segments and in other areas. So let's just see if you are listening to the shows and doing what you're supposed to do. So, the thing is, like I said, a lot of times I leave a lot of gaps, and it also gives you space to teach. I don't like to stuff people with information. It's not a good thing. I try to give you the framework and get you to flesh it out yourself. Because if I put a room up and I put up the framing and I put up the sheetrock, and I tape it off and I smooth everything out and I leave it, I want you to come in and decide what color you want it to be painted. or if you want paint at all, or you might want to put something else on the wall, and what pictures you want to hang, and so forth and so on. But I'll give you the structure, so you'll see how the room should be or how it should feel in that sense. But I don't always want to give you all of the answers like that. So that stuff I do is purposeful, in terms of leaving those gaps, because it gives your mind room, and you have to give people's minds room to breathe. I know a lot of times it's very tempting to, again, like I said, stuff people with information, but I try not to do that. So even in something like, how do I find if something is out of harmony or in harmony? Well, it actually does show you in Grasping the Divine Power, but you have to, I would say, read the section again. Read the section again, because now, I'm being careful not to give you the answer. That's not what this journey is about, man. It's not about being spoon fed. You're not going to get it that way. This journey is about, researching and digging and understanding through wisdom and application. Not just getting a bunch of knowledge, because you ain't going to do nothing with it. If I give you all of that information, trust me, it's going to paralyze you, as dead information tends to do to us after, because it becomes dead. And then we get paralyzed and weighed down by it, because we have just too much circulating. So start doing. Start doing. But the information is right there. It's right there. And that's not a question, again, that I need to answer. That's a question that the students need to answer, because I bet you there's a bunch of students that aren't tight on that either. So now if somebody's asking, because Vivid Eye Publications is a newbie, so you got a junior student coming in, now the onus is on you to step your game up so you can help them out. Not on me. I already did it. I wrote the book. So my part is done. It's on your part. So let's see. Sister Marva is 6 feet tall. Goodness, we got some Amazonians up in here. It's all good. Yeah. I like tall women. Tall women are the spice of life. All right. So Anwar says, Chief, I had a dream with you last night where you were teaching the neighborhood, back in the neighborhood stuff, while flying a remote control plane. It was dope. I'll touch bases with the Benia tribe later today. Yeah, that's right, because Brother Anwar is traveling around. Teaching the neighborhood while flying a remote control airplane. The plane was probably where I was getting all my information from, that I was actually using to teach the community. Yeah, I'm not gonna break that down too much though, but give thanks. Give thanks, man. I appreciate all of the good energy that you all are sending my way. Yeah, thank you. All right, we're gonna head out. The show was actually longer than I originally planned. Um, I have some things I have to do this dawning, so it's been a very eventful past couple of days for me, and the work does not stop. All right. So I'm going to head out. I will be back this Sunday, where we'll be continuing our talks on power. Last strong, we dealt with the aspects of Shakti, and I think I kept it pretty light, but I think I gave you enough where now you know what Shakti is. I know, again, certain phrases are used commonly in the conscious collective: Shakti, Shiva, Kundalini, fifth dimension, consciousness. A lot of times we throw those words around a lot, and we don't really know what they mean, and sometimes it's hard to put into context what people are actually saying. Sometimes they don't know what it means. They're just reading passages from a book or whatever. But so I kept it light on Shakti, but I think I gave you enough where now you'll understand where we're going next as we're talking about power and things like that. So certainly, I urge you, to, if you haven't checked out last Sunday's Chief Speaks, to check that out. If you didn't totally understand what was being said, check it out again. Watch it again. And so that way you'll be more prepared and ready for this Sunday's segment. All right? So we're going to head out, and I will see you all this Sunday for Chief Speaks. All right? And peace to all you Amazonian archers, and to all of you good men who are in this space and doing great things. Now, your assignment, yeah, you thought we were leaving. Nope. Always give you a Friday assignment. Mark, note, and notate and document the atmosphere and the environment around you, and then make a determination of who and what is around you. If it's a reflection of things that you have not untangled on a mental plane. That is your Friday assignment. All right, I'll see you all this Sunday during Chief Speaks. Hotepu.